Hello, hello. Yes, this is Overdrive, but this is not Overdrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog. My name is Brendan Dunlop. Very happy to be filling in again, and very happy this time to have two former Toronto Maple Leafs next to me. Peter Holland and Frankie Corrado. What's up, boys in blue?
Hey, here we go. Look at us.
Three guys wearing blue today.
For having never done a show together, it's amazing chemistry that we just walked in wearing different shades of blue that didn't clash for the cameras on TSN 2.
Not planned, man. Here we go, though. We're off and running. I love it. Nice to see you, buddy.
Impressive. Nice to see you too, man.
Yeah.
Nice to see you too. I always get mistaken in these parts for being Italian.
Okay.
And I feel as though this has everything to do with like you and Carlo. It's like the next new guy that comes in must be Italian.
It's very flattering, though, that people would see myself and Carlo in the same light as you. You're a good-looking guy, man. You got the flow going. It's nice.
It's I do feel like I always have to explain the fact that I'm half Portuguese Canadian because the name doesn't give it away. But anyway, got that out of the way.
That's okay.
How's the summer going, boys? Last time I saw you, PD, I looked like a gargoyle. I had a
You were wearing sunglasses in the studio.
I was. Well, I wasn't wearing sunglasses in the studio. I didn't want to be that guy. That's a different channel.
Okay.
But I did live life for like about 2 weeks wearing sunglasses inside. I've never felt lower than sitting at a cheesecake factory at 9:30 at night wearing sunglasses.
What happened?
You had to explain it. I had a bad case of blepharitis.
Okay.
Yeah. Which,
Try and say that 10 times fast.
Sounds like a midfielder playing at the Women's World Cup. No, it's an eye condition.
Okay.
Swell up. Just gross. Nobody wanted to see it. So I'm sitting here with Pete and Feschuk doing the show and the shielding off to the side. You know, waited my whole life to finally get on the 3-letter, and here I am.
Bright lights, man.
Can't look at the cameras. Hey, guys, can you not put it on the camera one, please? Thanks. Appreciate it.
They were doing the full Zoom for you, too, I think.
Yeah, they were. So I feel like I'm back. I did a whole thing at SoFi Stadium, a whole it was the Gold Cup final, and I wore sunglasses the entire time.
Okay, fair enough.
But they were day games, you said.
It was a day game, so I feel like I got away with it.
Next time I'm in Woodbridge and I'm at the grocery store and I see people wearing their sunglasses inside, I'll think that it's
Same
something
thing.
like that.
Blepharitis.
That's got to be it. Yeah. You'll be more courteous to them as opposed to be like, no, look at this guy.
Instead of judging them.
What is
I
this
am
guy
looking
doing?
at them, judging them.
I think we just call it
Gucci
pink
shades
eye.
on.
I think it's just pink eye.
It's a different thing, bro. It's a very different thing. We did have a slight disagreement off air here just before we came on about feeling like the summers are already over. I don't know if this is just like a pessimistic thing that I've got that I've always kind of carried through life, but I look at the calendar and it's like, man, August is going to fly. That's what it is. It's not so much that I feel today, August 1st, the summer's over. I just see how much is stacked up in August, and I'm like, this is going to evaporate.
See, I feel like I'm just hitting the sweet spot now because I run warm and I'm a sweater, right? So now the temperature's sort of coming in back into that like 23, 24 sweet spot for me.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like, I'm a happy camper right now, but I don't feel like the summer's over. I don't know, Frankie, where are you at?
August kind of feels like Sunday during the week, you know,
Right.
like you're like, it's coming to an end here. You start all the people you didn't do things with in June and July.
You're rushing
You start looking at your schedule now and you're like, there's just not enough weekends left. Like, how are we going to see all these people? Next thing you know, it's Labor Day. And we're back at it, man, and it's over. I will say, though, the weather, like right now, this is perfect. It's a little chilly in the morning, it's chilly at night, and it's not too humid in between. It's perfect.
When you can go golfing and wear pants and then your golf polo, like, tell me that's not the perfect setup.
But you still wear shorts anyways?
Yeah, I mean, you can make that
He
decision.
runs hot. He's a big sweater.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to wear shorts, but just that weather when you can throw on a light sweater or something, that to me, that's the sweet spot.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm also a sweater that runs hot, and I would much prefer to be on the golf course wearing pants. I'm not on the golf course enough, but I feel like we've got that in common this year.
Everyone says that. Now it depends who
Except
you
Grappler
ask, right?
or Carlo.
Yeah, like
or Hayes, who's not
depends,
here
though.
right
like
now.
If you're at your house and you're having that conversation and your wife hears you say that, yeah, I'm not on the golf course enough. She looks at you, you're like, excuse me, what did you just say?
You're in treacherous territory there.
Yeah.
You got to be really careful.
Be careful how you answer that one around the house.
Yeah.
The equivalent in my household is when I go through these bouts, I'm like, I haven't watched enough soccer this week. Like, are you kidding me? You feel like it's become the soundtrack to her life.
You got the Homer Simpson groove in your couch where you're sitting just marinating watching soccer.
Flip the cushion.
I've got one better than that. So I've got a 4.5-month-old at home, and you know, I never knew the noise machine was important until having a newborn. Like you've got to have that muffle.
Is it
white noise
white
all
noise?
the time, and it's like essential, right? I've replaced that with just a match broadcast, It's just I'm streaming a game and he's asleep in the carrier. I'm just going to keep the game on.
Well, you're starting him early.
Then halftime comes and then he wakes up. I'm like, see, he needs the crowd noise.
That's
it's
perfect.
The soccer crowd noise.
Now you're not using those old World Cup games where there was that horn going off. Yeah, that's what it's called, right?
Yeah.
Like that was so annoying.
Yeah, that would be a
those
distracting.
Games. It made it so hard to watch those. But yeah, I know what you mean though.
Yeah. I mean, it is disappointing to think that here he is starting his life already like asleep watching soccer. Like it's going to be on all the time. It puts my wife to sleep. There's a lot of people that are like, soccer, I'll sleep on that. We might have people sleeping on the show right now. Talking about
does he have a team affiliation yet? Like, is he being forced into one team?
I mean, his father's a diehard Aston Villa fan, so yes, in the Premier League, his team is chosen. He's claret and blue for life.
Oh, there you go.
Does he have a jersey yet?
He's got 3.
Oh boy.
Yeah, he's got 3 jerseys. He's got a full kit. He's got those little baby socks that come with it, but white shorts, man. White shorts for a baby. That's
not a good idea.
Wife's like, when are you going to put him in that? I'm like, when
that's also treacherous territory.
Honestly,
white shorts on a baby. Yeah.
Did you ever get him a Gigi Buffon jersey?
I'm Portuguese, bro. Come on,
dude. Respect the game.
I do respect the game, but I can't put my offspring in that Zurich gear.
Oh man, the best goalie in the history of the sport.
Would you put your offspring in Cristiano Ronaldo gear?
He's not the best player in the history of the sport at his position.
Oh, come on, man. Here we go.
Here we go.
I love that debate, though. I figured we might get to that in the open block a little bit later, but no, we can
whatever you want.
That lead off with that. Well, this is the beauty of these summer shows, right? And obviously we'll get to a bunch of hockey talk. We'll get Carlo Colaiacovo on here because I don't get enough mornings with that guy. I got one morning show with him in studio in person, and then I've done a few without him because he's golfing all the time. So I'm glad that he's the morning golf guy. He's not doing the afternoon rounds. He can join us. So we'll speak with him a little bit later, and we'll speak some baseball with Travis Snider later on in this hour. The Blue Jays, though, find themselves in a tough spot, don't they, boys? A month ago when we did this show, Petey, the Jays were in a much better situation around the All-Star break where it seemed like there was a lot of positives around this ball club. And you look at them now, and with 7-22 against their own division.
Well, 7-22, but they're 3-20 in their last 23 in the division.
Yeah, man, it's bad. It's bad. But the Orioles are like a grossly undervalued and underrated team. Like Baltimore is good.
They're the Dogs tonight too,
which is nuts.
They were the Dogs last night.
Dogs last night. Dogs tonight. Like
that was easy money yesterday.
Yeah, come on. Like you kind of knew Ryu was not gonna pitch a stellar game. I think that's a stat line for Ryu last night. That's fine. Like
I was gonna say,
you would live with that on any given day.
Right.
But like Vladdy is in one right now. Like Vladdy's having a tough time. If it's not for Danny Jansen, where are the runs coming from in this team? Like Danny Jansen, for a guy last year, Alejandro Kirk, who was outstanding last year and kind of stole that spotlight, Danny Jansen has grabbed it back in a big way. But outside of that, I'm not seeing anything that really is a positive light for this team right now.
No, 100%.
Well, another guy who's struggling too is Springer. And he's trying to stave off some bad Blue Jays history, if you will. Without a hit in his last 34 at-bats, I believe is the number.
But he's in a dark place, and Steve Phillips always talks about it. He kind of says, like, the Blue Jays will go as much as George Springer makes them go. Like, when he's batting leadoff and he's getting on base and he's got the energy going, that's when this team seems to go. Like, he is in a dark place right now. He's not even close. Like,
how do you get that guy going?
I don't know, man. That's a guy, like, that's a World Series champion. That's a guy that needs to find a way to get himself
He's a veteran
going.
guy?
Yeah.
Do you think it's harder? Baseball and isolating the skill sets is different than hockey. But when you guys were young players, you had a fearlessness that the older guys in the room envied you for, right? And at some point, it happens to everybody. At some point, you lose that, and you become the older guy, and then you're envious of the fearlessness. In baseball, I think that you can. There's not like one moment where, or a trend. I think where it begins to happen. It's individual. Once you kind of get in a slump, if you're an older guy and you can't find that fearlessness bug again, I think you get stuck in that space, and that seems to be where Springer is right now.
Well, the other word I would use instead of fearlessness would be just being naive to what you're doing. And you look at Nyes, who came in to play for the Leafs down the stretch and then into the playoffs, and he turned himself into a player that found himself playing in the top 6 all of a sudden coming out of college hockey. And it was like, I wonder if he realized the magnitude of how well he was playing.
Yeah.
Because if an older guy comes in, maybe they're aware of the spotlight, they're aware of the pressure, especially playing in Toronto, such a media pressured market. And we're going to get into that a little bit later on in the show as well. But, to your point, when you're an older guy like that, there should be ways to manage that. And right now it feels like some of the veteran guys on the Blue Jays aren't doing that.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Matthew Nyes. I remember like being a young kid and Keith Ballard was on the team in Vancouver, and he would just kind of look at me across the room. I'd be taping my stick or going out for practice. He'd just go, "You're so naive." He goes, "You have no idea what's going on here, right?" But it's true. And as you get older, like that's the thing. Maybe a guy like Manoah this year, right? Like has a lot of success early on, and batters, hitters start to figure him out, and he can't really find it. I mean, with Springer, he's an older guy. Like you would think that he's kind of been there and done that. He's had those ups and he's had those downs, and he kind of knows how to get through it. But listen, like sometimes it just takes a little longer. There's a mental or a technical aspect that he can't find right now. But they need him. Like as much as they need Bo, as much as they need Vladdy, they need George Springer. Like that's a big right-handed bat in the lineup, and that's a big void that they weren't able to fill with the trade deadline yesterday.
Do you think it's bad that the Blue Jays are in that situation? When I agree with Steve Phillips that like the Jays will go as far as George Springer. You look at all the other names that you just mentioned, but yet it's that guy that is the needle mover?
Because he's the guy that's been there. Like he's the guy that's been there. He's done that. He's won. Like he was supposed to be the guy in that clubhouse that kind of shows these guys, these younger guys, how you get there. And if he's not the straw that stirs the drink for them, it's like, okay, you start looking around. Like is Brandon Belt going to be that guy? No, like he hasn't even been great as a DH this year. So like there's a lot of players on that roster that leave a lot to be desired right now, and Springer's one of them.
The straw that stirs the drink. That was a nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was really nice. I agree with you. I believe that Springer is a guy that everyone wants to look to get them going, but at the same time, I feel like there's enough pieces in that Blue Jays dugout.
Me too.
Where it doesn't just have to be George Springer. Frankie's already mentioned some names, but one of them as well is Alejandro Kirk. Mm-hmm. You know, if we can get his bat going, maybe that gets a few other guys motivated as well. So I don't know. I think it's hard to point the finger just solely at George Springer right now.
Yeah, I think so too. And obviously everyone will use the Manoah comparison as someone who clearly is in a rut and has lost it. But Springer's not as isolated in what he does. I think for a pitcher, it's a lot easier to fall into that and harder to climb out of that. Whereas with Springer, I mean, he's had the injuries too. You got to think that probably plays a huge mental weight, that he's just afraid something's going to pop and he's going to be injured again.
For sure.
There's got to be an element of, conservative to how he's actually playing that may affect that as well. But I look at this division where I really thought the change in schedule was going to benefit a team like the Blue Jays. Instead, it seems like it's benefited everybody else.
Like less divisional games?
Yeah, less divisional games.
Well, and they've done great against National League teams. They've done really well against Central Division teams, but it's like...
Everyone does well against the Central.
For sure. Everyone does. And, the AL West is a different story now with Texas and Houston kind of going head-to-head there, two good teams. But there's just nothing like the AL East. Like, there's nothing like it in baseball. Maybe the NL West at times can mirror it, but not this year, man. Like every team can compete on any given night, and all these teams now are in the wild card hunt. And that's the worry now for the Jays. Like Boston is right behind you. The Yankees are right behind you. I don't think the Mariners think they're going to go anywhere. They decided to keep Teoscar Hernandez because they think they have an opportunity to make the playoffs. So they got to figure something out here, man, because they're going to be playing against the Yankees come September, and that'll be there before they know it.
Well, right now, confidence has to be pretty low coming off a 13-3 slapping last night. So hopefully they can find something here today.
Hopefully today. And then they got a matinee tomorrow. It's a 3 o'clock first pitch tomorrow. If they lose 4 in a row to the Orioles, that's going to be such a gut punch to them.
Well, and then they're going to Boston. Like they have to play the Reds. Like that is going to be a crucial series. And so if you drop 4 in a row to Baltimore and then you go into Boston, and Boston hasn't been great to the Jays this year. I believe the Jays are winless against the Red Sox this year. So like they got to figure things out quick, and it's got to be the best players that do it. Like we always talk about this, right? This is such a classic cliche in the dressing room when things aren't going well. It's
Can I say it for you?
Say it. Go ahead.
Your best players have to be your best players.
Like, it ain't rocket science, man. Right? Like, how many times have you heard coaches say, like, yeah, so-and-so on the fourth line was really good tonight, but that's the problem. Like, if he's our best player, we're not winning tonight. Right. Same can be said for baseball.
It's a compliment, but also a shot at your top guys, too. It's like, no. We want our fourth line players to be playing really, really well. It's just they should not be leading the charge in terms of who our best players are.
Yeah.
Either offensively or defensively. It's just not how it's supposed to work.
If your coach is looking down the bench and he's saying, I got to get that fourth liner back on the ice because that's the guy that's going tonight, you probably lost that game.
Do you remember, I think it was the 2015-2016 season. It was the one where we had like 45 different guys on the roster. And Babs was hunting for which line he was going to put out next, and there was that poignant or pregnant pause where he didn't come up with the line fast enough, where everyone on the bench is kind of like, okay, who's next? And I'll never forget, I was sitting next to P.A. Parento, and he turned around and he was like, it's getting pretty thin out here, isn't it, Babs?
Oh man, that's the
Classic.
worst thing you can hear on the bench. My like recollection of Babs on the bench was something would happen, puck would go in the back of the net, I'd be on the ice, and you skate towards the bench, and all I would see Babs is just walking over to DJ Smith, whisper something into his ear. You don't want to think it's about you, but then when you sit there and you miss your shift the next 3 times around, you're like, I think it was about me.
Yeah.
I haven't gone back on the ice since then.
One of my other favorite ones from Babs too is you'd be doing video the next day and he'd show the turnover that led to the goal or the grade A chance against, and he'd just go, well, the game's fair, isn't it, boys?
Let the tape do the talking.
There's nowhere to hide in video, and so today we're going to take a look at it and we're going to get better.
Beautiful.
I love that. I also love how excited Pete got when you said, you know what you hear all the time? We're like, can I guess?
Yeah.
Please, can I guess which line it is?
But funny enough, I say the same thing in golf now. I hit a bad golf shot, I end up like behind a tree or I'm in the cabbage or something. I go, well, the game's fair. You're going to hit a bad shot. This
Buddy,
is what you get.
You get what you deserve, eh?
Get what you deserve.
100%. That's the thing, Pete. That was a classic, like 15-16 Leafs line. Like when something happened, you're like, buddy, that's the thing.
Well, I think it started from Uncle Leo Komarov, buddy.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
That's the thing, man.
That's
the
the
thing
thing,
about
buddy.
this game. It'll humble you very quick.
Yeah.
And it's humbling the Blue Jays right now, man. Like the AL East, like we talked to Chris Colabello yesterday, and he played in that division, and he knows what it's all about. And he's a Boston guy, so he follows the Red Sox very closely. And there's another team that, like you can maybe count them out at the start of the season because you think it's not their year. There they are. They're right there again, man. Like there's no teams in this division that you can ever count out. It's just there's way too much talent. There's way too much money within those teams, aside from, Baltimore and Tampa that just seem to draft really well, develop really well, and they're just good every single year.
You and Chris Colabello would have been in the city at the same time, I think, right?
Yeah,
You guys
and
were you
I
guys doing
believe
fancy dinners in Woodbridge?
No, I wish we did. And Fire Up the Grilly was on the team for the Jays at the time, so the Italians were very well represented.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that should be the case right now for the soccer team. They're certainly well paid, the Italians, but the team not well represented.
Dude, I was just in Italy, and like I don't speak Italian very well, but I can do enough to have like some sidebar conversations.
You can function and get by.
Yeah, and there was this taxi driver that was a really nice gentleman, and we were talking a little bit, and I kind of asked him in my broken Italian, like, what's up with the team here? Like, why are they not in the World Cup ever, right? And he basically
Oh man.
Well, the last 2 World Cups, they're not in it. That's 8 years where they haven't been in it.
You're speaking truth,
right? And he kind of told me, he's like, yeah, the Federation, they don't care to develop young talent, and that was. Okay, so if you don't develop young talent, then you don't have good older players. What do the Orioles and the Rays do every single year? They develop young talent, and they have, not the biggest payroll, but they're always a good team in the mix.
Wow. Grappler, what were the FanDuel odds that someone other than me would take a soccer reference to spin it to the Blue Jays? Probably like plus 7,000.
Yeah, I don't even know if FanDuel would have had Don on that because it would have been like plus 10 billion.
That was so brilliantly
chance that
done.
was
Like
happening.
the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. That was phenomenal.
Dude,
It's too early in the show to be
such a
paying
big
him
soccer
compliments
guy.
like
I
that.
love it, man. I love it.
That was the last thing I expected, that you were going to pull it back and make a very pointed, accurate comparison about the Blue Jays.
Listen, one of your countrymen just sent me a message and said the Ronaldo comment was completely offside.
Oh, hugely offside.
Yeah, offside.
Like, do you see what's happening in Saudi Arabia right now? Let's take it that way, okay?
No one sees what's happening in Saudi Arabia. We just know the athletes go there, but no one actually sees what happens when they go there.
Well, you're going to be watching a lot of Riyadh derbies, my friend, because Al Nassr versus Al Hilal has taken over the spotlight.
Yeah, that's your background noise for your kid when he's sleeping.
So just put on the Saudi Pro League at 5 a.m. That's right.
If you're Kylian Mbappe and you get offered $733 million for 1 year, do you go?
I think I'm doing it.
You think?
Yeah.
You're absolutely going.
100%.
100% you're going. Fuel the jet. I'm on my way. Leave everything behind. Bring my wife, bring my daughter. Off we go.
And
1 year.
Of all of the packages and all of the offerings that we've seen Saudi Arabia throw to these big name stars, this is one that said, look, we want you to come here for 1 year, but we know you've got bigger aspirations and we want to help you achieve them. Come here for 1 year, and then you can leave and you can go play at Real Madrid.
That was part of the deal. It was just 1 year, and you're free to go. Like, what would the obligations have been like if he did go over there?
Oh, he's the face of tourism,
right?
100%. He'd be on every billboard. He'd be on every campaign,
can't
every
leave
commercial.
though. Like no passport, not able to get away. Like he's stuck there.
No, I bet. They get to go to Bahrain, which is like Saudi Vegas.
Saudi Vegas.
Yeah. He'd be able to get around.
Is that like?
They wouldn't take his passport away.
Is that an ironic one? Like we joke around about certain cities, like on in the AHL, right? Like Rockford is Rock Vegas.
Oh, nice.
Belleville, Ontario is Bell Vegas, right? Like is that like
is Belleville really Bell Vegas?
Well, it's more of like an ironic thing. Right?
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Is that what Bahrain is?
No,
is
it's more accurate. It's more accurate. It really is. It's like Macau.
It's like Macau. That's
Vegas.
what I was gonna say.
Yeah. Bahrain is that out there.
Okay.
Interesting part of the world. I went for the Formula One Grand Prix a few years ago.
Yeah, that would be the cool event to go to. I mean, anywhere that would be a pretty cool event to go to.
Have you been to F1?
No, never been.
No,
never.
I can't get into it.
Really?
Yeah.
Even with the documentary, bro? You
Well,
can't
I
get
know.
into it?
I know a bunch of my friends got into it because of the documentary, and I couldn't.
That puts you off it?
Well, I couldn't get through 2 episodes. Yeah, maybe a little bit, but I
Maybe.
couldn't get through 2 episodes of the documentary.
Really?
Yeah.
I think that got a lot of people into the sport. The problem is now it's like the same old story when Lewis Hamilton was winning every single race. Now it's Max Verstappen winning every single race. So it's like, where's the theater behind this?
Yeah.
But like who was it that used to say it? If you don't like it, pitch better. Like if you don't like it, build a better car.
David Price.
It was David Price.
David Price,
right? Like if you don't like it, pitch better. If you don't like losing, build a better car.
Hey,
Like,
the
what do you
game
want
is
me to
fair.
tell you? That's the thing.
Buddy, that's the thing. The game is fair.
There we go. We're full circle on the game is fair.
What was the other one? It is what it is, bud?
It is what it is, bud. I don't know.
That's the thing.
That's the
That's
thing.
the thing. Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah.
By the end of this show, by the end of our 3 hours, I'm going to recite all of these.
Okay.
I feel like I'm already in the club, boys in blue wearing the jacket, so I'll try and get at least some of the cliches because I know I couldn't hang with you guys on the ice, and I certainly couldn't hang with you on the golf course either.
Well, let's start an over-under on how many. That's the thing we're going to say today now.
You know what else we're going to start an over-under on? How many messages I get from people saying that the Ronaldo comment is way out of line. We're up to 2 right now.
These are direct messages.
Direct messages from people I know.
Oh.
Someone had to take the effort to go into their phone, find you on Twitter,
They're
pull up the
buddies.
direct
They're
message.
buddies. They're buddies.
Yeah.
They're not strangers.
Oh, they're not
friends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought maybe somebody from Woodbridge was just all over you right
Dude,
now.
in Woodbridge, like Joe from the Bridge is doing jumping jacks in his booth right now after hearing that. He's like Messi all day.
Yeah. You can watch Messi in MLS now, which is something that the league is very much banking on. And
Yes.
he's had a massive impact. Scored 3 goals in his first 2 games.
Yeah.
Hasn't played a league game yet because
Could you script a better
no.
for his first game, the way he scored it?
Hollywood. It's also
So
insane
Hollywood.
to his first game and into Miami wasn't even in Major League Soccer. It was in this newly concocted tournament, largely for Apple TV. It's a great idea to test MLS players and MLS teams against the best from Mexico. It's all 18 teams from Liga MX and all 29 teams from MLS in this Leagues Cup. And they're the worst team in MLS, and they were playing the worst team in Liga MX. And that stadium is rammed with LeBron James, Kim Kardashian, Serena Williams,
crazy?
all
The
these
worst team.
A-listers to watch Messi and then score with a free kick at the death.
Like, is he going to be able to, like, they're at 29 teams right now. I'm sure they have aspirations of growing the league as far as, like, having more teams involved.
They're going
right? Like,
they're going to 30.
They want to get to
San
30.
Diego's
So San
in the
Diego's
30.
coming in. Like, how much is Messi performing in Miami, right, and adding that excitement value to that market? How much is that going to do for other small markets, whether it's, San Diego coming into the league, or I don't know, pick a smaller market in the United States.
Columbus.
Columbus. There you go. San Jose. Like, what does that do for those small teams? Does it do anything?
It raises the profile of the whole league. I mean, the league benefits from the all these teams in the league benefit from the
Tide
league.
raises all boats.
Exactly. And it's going to increase revenues absolutely everywhere. We've seen it with the ticket prices. Chicago, the Fire play at Soldier Field, they can't get 18,000 people in there. It's going to be full when Miami comes.
Yes, when Miami comes. But what about when Columbus plays San Jose or Chicago plays Cincinnati? Like, is it like?
I think you're
does
looking
it do
at
anything
it,
for that?
No, but I think you're looking at it on too small of a scale. I think on the whole, Messi coming and having that impact is just ballooning the profile of the entire league and every team. Because now it's giving every owner permission to be like, well, who can I attract to my team?
That's what I'm saying. Like, more guys would have to come over. For me, anyways, like the Messi thing is exciting, and people might buy subscriptions because they want to watch Messi. But in your local market where you usually get, I don't know, let's say you get 10,000 people in a stadium that seats 20,000. So you're at 50% capacity. Like, is that going to drive it up to 75, 80% capacity in those other markets? You know what like if you don't have Messi in the building.
Hey, tide raises all boats. That's the thing, bud.
Yeah.
You'll see how it plays out.
Yeah.
We're going to take a break. That'll be the end of the soccer talk, I promise. Yeah, right. This is Overdrive on TSN2 and TSN 1050. You're vibing on Overdrive on a Wednesday. My name is Brendan Dunlop. Happy to be alongside a couple of former Toronto Maple Leafs and Frankie Corrado and Peter Holland. We talked a lot of everything in that first block, boys.
Was there a sport we didn't hit in that first block?
I mean, we didn't talk professional golf. I made a Saudi Arabia reference, but you guys made a couple of personal golfing comments, and that was it. So I'd say I think we've hit it all. It's time to hit some baseball. We're going to speak with Keegan Matheson later on the show in the 6 o'clock hour. He's tweeted the breaking news that Bo Bichette is going on the IL with right patellar tendonitis. So we talk about all of the injury concerns that the Blue Jays have at the moment and how important it is to finish off this series with the Orioles, who are flying in the AL East on a high note. Let's talk to someone who's played in the AL East before. Former Toronto Blue Jay Travis Snider with us. Travis, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me, guys.
It's great to talk with you, man. How are things going? How are you enjoying this summer so far? We were just debating whether at August 1st it feels like the summer's nearly over, or as Peter Holland is convinced, no, the summer's just beginning.
Yeah, it's interesting. I started to see a few leaves fall. The weather's been absolutely incredible here in the Seattle area, and hoping that this will stay through September, and that would be just fantastic.
Hey, obviously the trade deadline was a lot of talk. Your trade in 2012 is one of the most talked about trades amongst Blue Jays circles for a lot of reasons. It was the middle of the game. You were playing the Mariners, if I'm not mistaken. I want to know what was going through your head during that game, and then after when you got the call from Alex Anthopoulos, that you were moving on and you were going to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, you don't really think about it when you're out there on the field, but leading up to it, I knew there was a chance. But there's also that attachment to the storyline. My ego had started to project that I was going to be a franchise player. I was going to spend my whole career in Toronto and, hopefully have my name up there next to Jose Bautista, who's going up there in a couple of weeks. So I think that's, reflecting back on where I was at that point in my career and what age I was, and just how I kind of got off course of what I really needed to stay focused on. So it kind of came out of nowhere, even though I kind of expected it. But again, as I tweeted, it's just so much emotion that goes into it that quickly gets swept aside because you're showing up the next day at a new field with a new group of guys, putting on new colors, getting ready to go to battle.
How hard was it to handle the expectations of being a young player and making the jump to the major leagues? Like, I know playing hockey, you have it in your head how you think your career should go, and then certain things happen along the way that seem to kind of derail you or stall things. Like, how hard was that to deal with as a major league player?
Yeah, I think it's true in most professional sports as well as life. I think we all have some sense of how we want things to go and how we think they're going to go based off of what we're doing in the current moment and how things have happened in the past. But again, that's the lesson we all learn at some point. Life has a different plan for us. And, for me, there was a lot of the things externally that I started to read about and kind of become my attitude and my preparation towards pleasing other people instead of doing what I knew in my heart was most important, was keeping my head down, staying focused on the task at hand and taking the punches as they came.
Well, you have an amazing tweet. We were going through your Twitter before having you on the show today. And for those of you listening, I recommend checking it out at LunchboxHero45. And your tweet is about who you are versus what you do. And I'm curious, in your personal experience, how you manage that. Was there someone you spoke to? Maybe it was a family member. Maybe it was a sports psychologist. How do you handle creating that identity for yourself that's not just as a baseball player?
I think that's something until late in my career. My last year, I started working with who is my now business partner. His name's Seth Taylor. He's a local therapeutic life coach and worked with a handful of MLS and MLB guys. James Paxton's one of his clients that I've become very close with over the years. And you just see how careers, life in general, don't go as according to our plan. And I think working with him at the end of my career and transitioning into life after being a baseball player really afforded me the opportunity to dive deeper and say, yeah, there's a ton of value to working with sports psychologists. There's a ton of resources that I was able to use in Toronto and Pittsburgh and other stops along the way, whether it was internal through an organization or external. but really being able to dive deeper into that identity issue that I believe was starting to build at such a young age with, as we see now, how polarized and pressure-packed youth sports are, and the amount of success that I had was, top of my class all the way through, and getting to the big leagues at 20 years old. Again, if you would have told me back then I was only going to scratch out 5.5 years of Major League service time, I would have laughed at you. If you would have told me I would have played independent baseball, I would have laughed at you. So these are things that, again, baseball life is just a humbling experience. And I think for me, being able to let go of that identity, understand where it kind of was rooted from and how along the way, I was just pouring gas on a fire instead of really being able to focus on the things that I know are true to myself and most important day in and day out.
Yeah, I guess it's always sort of coming back to the process versus the outcome. And I like how you touched on the pressure, and something we were chatting about a little earlier in the show is being young. And we use the word fearless and naive, as you kind of don't really realize what you're doing. You're just out there playing the game you love. And it's kind of as you get older, you realize, holy crap, I'm playing in the big leagues. And I guess as a follow-up to that, something else we're discussing on the show today is players potentially not wanting to play in a market, more specifically hockey, because it's Toronto. But what was your experience like with the Toronto media? I know obviously the Blue Jays are Canada's only team, so there's probably a little bit of hyper-focus nationally. Did you find any additional pressure from playing here with the Jays?
I'd say it was double-edged sword. I mean, Toronto is one of my favorite cities in the entire world. The fan base there was incredible to me. The media, I think, did right by me despite all of the ups and downs that I went through. So I'm fortunate to have great relationships with the guys that used to cover, on the beat, on the national side. It was really, again, I was 20, 21, 22 years old going through this transformation of what I thought was going to happen. And I think, and I truly do believe the Blue Jays organization and a lot of the people around me believe that I could be or achieve, right, in air quotes, more than what I achieved in my career. And I think having set those expectations and starting to invite the external expectations and reading the articles and when social media started, looking at Twitter and looking at the comments and riding the waves, right? And we all talk about, being able to stay even keeled. And I think that's just something with professional sports and people that are in the spotlight. There's a little bit more of a platform, and that pressure is something, again, that it's an external thing. Internally, we don't have, those expectations of living up to hundreds of thousands of people's views on what you should be in this world. It should be focused on what we think we're capable of doing, but more importantly, what we know we're able to do through hard work and staying focused on that process.
Talking with former Toronto Blue Jay outfielder Travis Snider. Travis, to the tweet that Pete just referenced, I really appreciate you sharing that, because I think there's a lot of people that really resonates with, and it might force a lot of people that read that to do a deep dive and really look into their own identity or clarify it a little bit more. In terms of what it's like, playing through some of those mental battles. We were talking on the show about Alek Manoah, George Springer, Alejandro Kirk. There are a few guys that seem like that, they're in a real mental funk. Obviously, we know about Manoah. Do you think that the you mentioned the sports psychologist that you benefited from in your time in Toronto. Do you think that the mental game support around the game has caught up to a point where it should be, or is there still a ton of work to do on that front?
I think every organization takes a little bit different approach, but I think across the board organizations, at least the ones I was a part of, I've tried to maintain, a focus and a presence in that space. But I think the tricky thing for fans to understand is that this is your employer, right, who is providing you with a resource, that there is some kind of connection in terms of communication between that person you're working with and the team. And again, there are confidentiality things that, certain situations will provide you some form of protection. But again, we're always trying to look out for what's in our best interest, right, as players, as well as be great teammates and understand that certain things that you say and do can be used against you, right, when it comes time to make a tough decision, or you sit down and I never had to go to arbitration, but knowing what guys have gone through in arbitration cases and trying to prove your worth. And being vulnerable is very difficult at that level because, again, everybody looks at you and thinks, man, you've achieved these things in your life. You have had the success. You've made this money, whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, we are still human beings. And that's where, going back to the tweet that you referenced, I think in doing these deeper dives and understanding where not only myself and the obvious situations and experiences I had in several clubhouses throughout my career and post-playing careers, the conversations that I have with guys, looking around at high performance across the board, and not even just high performance, man. It's people that are struggling with addiction. It's people that are struggling with the identity crisis of maybe they're not happy with their job, they're not happy with their lives. And I think we all go through that at some point, some earlier than others, and some are forced to face those things in certain situations. And I think for all of us, right, we're all looking for ways to cope. We're all looking for ways to connect. We're all looking for ways to find a greater purpose on this earth. And I think that's it's a human struggle. And just as professional athletes, as a professional baseball player, we have an opportunity to utilize the platform for things such as having these conversations. And I feel, honored to be able to share that vulnerability with people and see the type of reception and responses that I got across Twitter over the last not even 48 hours. And I've seen, almost 2.5 million views, 3 million views on this thing. It's insane.
Was there a player or multiple players that maybe you played with throughout your career where you saw them do the work day in and day out, and it just seemed like nothing ever fazed those guys? It was like, that guy's a dog every single day, no matter what. And you kind of looked at it, you're like, how's he doing that? Was there anyone throughout your career that you saw that was like that?
I think the person I would go to that I didn't get to share a clubhouse with would be Clayton Kershaw, because Kershaw and I were the two youngest players in the major leagues that year in 2008, and Kershaw's had an absolutely Hall of Fame career, right? And I don't compare myself and say, well, I should be exactly like Clayton Kershaw, but in terms of our achievements and successes, he was a guy that I competed with for the minor leagues and even got some at-bats against him in the big leagues. So he's a guy I would love to sit down with. Mike Trout's another guy I'd love to sit down with at some point and have these conversations and get a deeper understanding as to what they did to create a better foundation. But ultimately what I'm realizing and what I'm focusing on my career life after baseball is really diving into the youth sports and understanding how parents and coaches are trying their best, right, to give kids these opportunities without understanding the level of pressure that we're placing on 8U, 9U, 10U. And I know this applies to hockey, it applies to soccer, it applies, just to various sports and even just academic achievements, right? As parents want to provide better life opportunities for their kids, but aren't really aware or realizing how some of that effort can be counterproductive, right? And how we can be building kids up at a young age to feel like they have to go out and receive their love through the sport they play or the profession they're pursuing once they get into college. And again, these are all things that are just human struggles, right? I think sports is just a beautiful vehicle for us to be able to experience life and learn these lessons. But again, I really am just kind of locked in on being able to observe people at peak performances at the top of their game, but also boil it back down to the grassroots, where I really think that we collectively as a generation can strive to provide better opportunities, better resources, and just create a better awareness and have a conversation, right, where I don't have all the answers, but I look forward to continuing these conversations about mental health and about how we can support athletes, how we can support humans, right, kids in general, so that the generations to come will be better off.
There's two players you played with during your time with the Blue Jays that had big career turnarounds at one point or another. Roy Halladay, earlier on in his career, went on to be one of the greatest pitchers of all time. Jose Bautista is going to go on to be one of the greatest Blue Jays of all time. You played with both those guys. Like, is there anything you take away from seeing those guys day in and day out and around the clubhouse and around the facility?
I'll start with Jose because I'm going to be up there in a couple of weeks for his induction into the Ring of Honor. So I'm really excited to get to share that experience with Jose because we got to platoon in left field when Rios was in right and Jose came over from Pittsburgh and he was working in the cages and I watched him rebuild his swing. And Jose is a guy that I developed a really strong personal relationship with on and off the field. Went to him several times in my career just searching for answers as I started to struggle and started to doubt myself for the first time. And it was really something special to watch that transformation. You could say the same thing about Eddie Encarnacion. Watching two great hitters make that transition that I hoped at some point I was able to get over that hump. I wasn't able to do it the way that they were, but again, hat tip to those guys, and it was an honor to share a clubhouse with them. Doc, on the other hand, I was there after his struggles, so we kind of heard the rumors and what really was going on, which I can't say with any certainty what exactly happened to him at the younger stage of his career, but watching that guy day in and day out was an absolute pleasure. I mean, there wasn't a guy who worked harder than Doc. There wasn't a guy who was more dedicated, committed to Doc than Doc. And I think, again, looking at how Doc's career ended with the injuries, and just what he put his body through and what he put his mind through. I wish Doc was here today for us to be able to have that conversation and really learn from somebody who, again, made that big transformation in their career. But I think, if Doc were here today, I think he would have, at least a few words to say about maybe some things he missed out on in his career and whether it was all worth it when it was said and done.
Travis, I know you made a lot of fans when you were here in Toronto, my friend, and you're inspiring a lot of people with the work you're doing now and the way you're talking. So I really appreciate you coming on Overdrive. This was a very inspiring chat for us this afternoon, and I look forward to chatting with you again, man. I'm
grateful for the opportunity, guys, anytime.
Former Toronto Blue Jay, Travis Snider.
I think he's still making fans.
Absolutely,
like that.
He's gonna make a lot of new fans speaking like that. There's the
one thing he forgot though is that every parent in the GTHL, their kids going to the NHL. He obviously didn't. He obviously didn't know that.
He's been spending too much time in Seattle, I guess.
Yeah, he's got to come back to Toronto and check out a minor hockey game here.
You spent enough time in the Pacific Northwest in Vancouver. Yeah. Do you find that the mentality in general is different, where people the level of passion and that obsession that would exist here for specific to sports, and mind you, I don't have a kid that's playing sports out in Vancouver, but they'd be like, oh, you don't want to do that? Fine, we'll just go do this outdoors instead.
Yeah.
We'll just switch to the next outdoor activity adventure.
It was interesting. Well, obviously, I think you want to give your kid every opportunity to pursue something, especially if they show that they want to do it and they're passionate about it. But the one way I would always describe the difference between Toronto and Vancouver life is, if you live in Toronto, you grow up here, someone asks you what you do. You say, I'm a lawyer, I'm an accountant, and you tell them your job, right? In Vancouver, if someone asks you, what do? You say, yeah, I like to jog on the seawall. I do yoga, and I go to Stanley Park from time to time. It's like, no, I meant like, what do you do for a living, right? But that's like the difference in the mindsets out there. And it's just, it's a little more laid back out west. And some people appreciate it. Some people like the hustle and bustle of Toronto. There's no wrong answers. It's whatever suits you.
Yeah, that's my exact experience with Western Canada in general. Calgary's the same thing. Like, no, I don't care about your job, man. Do you ski? Are you a runner? Like, what outdoor activity you do?
Got some hobbies? Like, you got some interests?
Did you miss the part where I said I'm from Toronto? What outdoor activities do I do? You can mean walking to the subway. That's the outdoor activity.
And even that aggravates me.
Oh, buddy. Yeah, that does, especially now. Although driving's not any better in Toronto,
no,
is it?
It's not.
The worst traffic.
We're not going to complain. We're going to keep it positive.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing.
Buddy, that's the thing.
That's the thing.
That's the thing.
Nice.
This
Way to work it in.
This is Overdrive. A lot more to come here on TSN2, TSN 1050, and the iHeartRadio app. Back on Overdrive, Dunlop, Corrado, and Holland with you on this August 2nd Wednesday.
Hump day.
Yeah. I was trying to find a way to transition to something clever about the tweet that has gone viral, at least in Grappler's world, of this bear stealing golf clubs out of the back of a golf cart. And I got to be honest, I've never encountered an alligator, but the wildlife confrontations is just one more reason to dissuade me from spending as much money and as much time on the golf course as you guys do.
Don't, man. It's a great time. Like out west, like we used to play some golf in Vancouver before the season.
Yeah.
It's pretty normal to see a bear on the course. And like for me, it's not normal being from here. I've pretty much just soiled myself seeing that up close and personal. I don't know if you've had any experiences like that.
When I was playing in Arizona, I was golfing, and it wasn't irregular to come across snakes.
Right.
And I would see some rattlers out there on the fairway. So wildlife, I don't do wildlife on the golf course. I'm not sure I'd be as brave as the guy in the video who practically chased the bear into the woods, but
like how expensive are your clubs if you're chasing the bear in the woods?
Yeah.
It's still a bear.
It's a consideration.
It looked like a smaller bear. It's probably a cub.
Here's the thing now. Shout out to our friends at Golf Canada. If your clubs get lost or stolen, I believe they are insured as long as you're a Golf Canada member. We'll have to fact check that through our guy, Lawrence Applebaum, the CEO. But
there might be some
by a black bear.
There might be some fine print in there.
Yeah, we should ask Lawrence if a bear steals your clubs, like what happens there?
Wildlife destruction.
What kind of snacks were in this guy's bag that the bear was like, I want this set of clubs right here?
Guaranteed beef jerky.
You think?
Guaranteed beef jerky.
That's a popular golf snack.
It's a dangerous one too. Like to go.
Well, the nice thing about
jerky?
it, your hands don't get too sticky or slimy, which is nice.
Yeah, I guess that would be. First time I ever played 18 holes was Gino Ojic's course, Musqueam, out there in Vancouver.
Shout out.
Yeah, beautiful scenery. This is Overdrive, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. We got to take another break. Don't go anywhere.